Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller, my co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Good day for 2311 after their offseason lawsuit with NASCAR. Tyler Reddick in victory lane for the Daytona 500. Bubba Wallace leads the most laps in the race, 40 of them. Tyler Reddick, though, with some expert driving there at the end of the race to get around Chase Elliott, to get around Joey Logano. Brad Keselowski was up there. Zane Smith was up there. But it was Tyler Reddick who ended up winning this year's race. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. comes home second. Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski rounding out the top five. Zane Smith, Chris Buescher, Riley Herbst, who was your 36 or 36 pick last week, comes home eighth. Solid pick there for him. Josh Berry and Bubba Wallace, as mentioned before, rounding out the top 10. But what most people were talking about was that ending and how Tyler Reddick maneuvered through the front of the field there. Nick, what'd you think of that race?
I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, I was happy with the result. I was happy with my winnings from my bets and stuff. But it's such a weird race. The third stage to me is really weird because we don't really get a stage 3 anymore. We just ride around for 50 laps, and then you get these broken up pit stops, and then they all rejoin with 10 laps left. And then you just have a 10-lap shootout. But the rejoin is so sloppy that we got 2 laps of racing, and then Hamlin and Christopher Bell crashed. And then we get a 5-lap shootout. So I don't know. It's the ending was exciting. I mean, those last 5 laps were amazing, but we didn't really see much actual racing. We saw a few big ones just because drivers make mistakes, and there was some competitive racing at times, but a lot of it was still just focused on this fuel thing. And it makes it weird. It felt awkward to me. It was just we're just waiting for 10 to go, and because they're saving so much fuel, they're pitting literally with 10 to go as the last few drivers that pitted. And it's and Michael McDowell went the whole way without even pitting. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing when Michael McDowell doesn't have to pit for a whole stage at the last stage, essentially?
Yeah, and his crew chief caught on Twitter today and said they would have been good on fuel. They did all the math and they would have been good on fuel. But it's turned into, like you said, these final stage at these super speedways, and I tweeted about it during the race, and I said, why are we not making a bigger deal about this 60% throttle thing? Because they even mentioned it on air, on the broadcast. They're saying these guys are only running 60% throttle, and it's
it's a good thing. But
and I understand that's the strategy and that's what they all take, but it doesn't mean it's a good thing. And the unfortunate thing is NASCAR doesn't see an issue with it because they already came out and said, fix what? Because they got asked, are you gonna fix this? And there's nothing to fix. You're getting exciting finishes. You're getting good racing at the end. What's there to fix? Is it one of those situations where it's not perfect, but we do get a good result? I could see how they look at it that way. But at the end of the day, how are we not shoring this up to where the 60% throttle thing doesn't exist? But, as far as the ending goes, that was exciting. I was out of my seat. I was jumping, literally it was awesome. It was great to see the end of the race like that, how Tyler Reddick did it. It was exciting, but there was leading up to it. It is a little frustrating, but you mentioned some of the more unexperienced drivers up there that caused a few wrecks. We got Justin Allgaier.
He's experienced, was up there. He's experienced. He just threw a horrible block and wrecked the whole field. It was a mess, and he knows better. He knows better. He admitted it in his interview. He messed up, and it sucks. He misjudged it completely, and I just was not expecting that from Gator. I mean, he's like him or hate him, he's a pro. He's a pro's pro. He tends to race maybe aggressively, but clean aggressive. I've never seen him really be dirty. So it was kind of unexpected, and I really liked Gator for DFS just for that reason, right? If he's going to get in a big one, it's probably because he got caught up in other people's mess. Well, no, he was the one that created the mess, and I couldn't believe it. So that was kind of wild. But I mean, the wreck at the end with Riley Herbst and obviously the Eric Jones and Connor, not Connor, what's his name? Carson Hocevar right there at the end of the beginning of the last lap. So, you got another young guy, Carson Hocevar, aggressive. And I don't think Jones or Hocevar made a mistake. It was just one of those like slightly off-centered, and Jones was being pushed by Stenhouse and just didn't work out, and being aggressive at the end. Everybody's being aggressive. And I don't think that anybody was blamed for that one. But then, at the end, people want to blame Riley Herbst, but I fully agree with Denny Hamlin. You got to go for the win. And he tried to. There was room. He just pulled it a little too far to the right and hit Brad, but there actually was room to make it 4 wide there. And I don't know if you heard Denny on Actions Detrimental, that little clip, but he said, Riley didn't want to hit Chase Elliott. So, cause that would have pushed Elliott past Tyler Reddick.
Right.
So, and he couldn't get down behind Reddick, and he wanted to go for the win himself. So he barely touched the brakes. Barely. I mean, barely. And that allowed Brad enough of a run to get up alongside him when Riley went, to the right. If he hadn't touched the brake, he probably gets out in front of Brad, and Brad probably still dumps him, but it's from behind instead of from the side. So, it's technically on Riley Herbst, but I don't fault him at all for making that move.
Yeah, and Keselowski was interviewed after the race and said that was the dumbest blocks he's ever seen. And I'm sitting here like, Brad, you've dumped so many people on these super speedway races, and in that position, he would have made the exact same move. Now, obviously, on the other side of it, Denny Hamlin's going to kind of defend Riley Herbst there. He's a 23-11 driver,
sure.
but yeah, like Herbst is definitely not pushing Chase Elliott to the win. And here's a comment that came in: picking Chase Elliott to win, him getting past there was heartbreaking. Yeah, that would be, if I would have had an Elliott ticket, that would have been frustrating, because I'm honestly, I don't know about you, Nick, but I was surprised they did not throw a caution on that final lap when that first wreck happened. I'm surprised they let him race back to the line. I love that they did, but I was a little bit shocked that they did.
They've allowed it before. I mean, remember Mark Martin, Kevin Harvick, they've allowed it, to go.
Oh, they've definitely allowed it, but like, it's so inconsistent.
There were no major hits. I think somebody had absolutely walloped the wall or something. They probably would have done it, but it was mostly just cars wrecking and then kind of spinning to the inside towards the infield and the apron and all that stuff. So there were no major hits where it was unsafe. Right. So I agree that they should have left it green. I wasn't totally surprised that they left it green, maybe a little, just because they sometimes will throw the caution. Like you said, it's very inconsistent, but I'm also not surprised they let it go green. I would say I'm like 90% not surprised and 10% surprised.
Yeah. And I wasn't overly surprised, but there was a factor of like, I wouldn't be surprised if they threw a caution here.
Just for Chase Elliott.
I was going to say, so we can mark this race for the people that say NASCAR plays favorites and just, wants Chase Elliott to win. They could have made him a Daytona 500 champion.
Instead, the guy that sued them, or driving for the team that sued them, won, right? So there's no, gotta put a hole in that conspiracy theory thing for people that like to think NASCAR rigs race winners and stuff. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Even though their website said Chase Elliott won, with 5 laps to go.
I noticed that. And when you tweeted that, and then I'm sitting there watching the race, and I'm like, if this happens, because it was like the winning margin was also like razor thin. I'm like, if this ends up being Chase Elliott, that's going to be quite the conspiracy theory.
I know, but I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the? It turns out it was the Clash results from the Clash that Elliott won. They had, or not the Clash, the duel that Elliott won. So that was what they had up there, but I don't know why they switched to the end screen results with Chase Elliott winning, and it was the duel with 5 laps to go in the Daytona 500. That was weird, but it was funny. I was laughing because and people thought I was serious about oh, they got the script. I was joking, y'all. I was just having some fun on the internet, and people got so serious about it.
Yeah, but so you mentioned some of the younger drivers. It was good seeing those younger drivers up front. I mean, I said Zane Smith finished 6th. Connor Zilisch was up there. What sucks is I also was on Allgaier a lot for DFS. I loved Connor Zilisch in DFS, and that was one of the most frustrating things of the day because they were running up front. I mean, Allgaier was leading, when they both got taken out. It's so frustrating. Our boy Gilly was up there near the front. I'm like, Todd Gillen could win
3rd at the time and as the top forward.
Yeah. John Hunter Nemechek, who's always been good at super speedway racing or at least getting finishes, he was up there. He led 19 laps. I mean, there was a good share of I feel like 30 different drivers led on Sunday. But like I said,
most ever, I think it was.
Yeah. Bubba Wallace ended up with the most laps led with 40, and then obviously Reddick won led the most important lap, which I think people are making a big deal about that as well. Reddick and his just having one lap led, and once again, but that's how Daytona works. These
Yep.
guys are. It's similar back in the days of road course racing when they would run the schedule or the strategy backwards on when you're going to pit to get to the end, and that's how they're running the race the whole time. They're doing the exact same thing here. You're setting yourself up for the end. You obviously have drivers like Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, sometimes Brad Keselowski that get up there and want to control the race in the early portions, but at the end of the day, these guys are just trying to be there at the end.
I was a little surprised, that Team Penske didn't, run up as front as much as they did. Joey Logano did for a portion of the race, but it was usually mostly right at the start because he was starting up front, with Kyle Busch. And we didn't really see Blaney leading. We didn't really see Cindric leading. So it was interesting that Team Penske didn't lead a whole lot in that race. Also, you mentioned John Hunter Nemechek. That's his first DNF ever at Daytona. He had finishes of 11, 7, and 5 in his three previous Daytona 500s. And in the Daytona summer race, the cutoff race, somehow he avoided calamity in all three of those as well, finishing 11th, 15th, and 17th. So finally, the streak ends for John Hunter Nemechek on clean finishes, and the best average finish at Daytona takes a hit.
Yeah, he's still number one in that category, 13.1. Bubba Wallace closes the gap a little bit. He's at 14.2. You mentioned DNFs, though. Like you said, John Hunter Nemechek had his first DNF. Another noteworthy guy that had his third DNF at Daytona, which had been a while since he had one, was Alex Bowman. He finished 40th, just ahead of BJ McLeod, who wrecked on lap 4?
Yeah.
And hit Byron there.
He popped a tire, like nothing he can do.
Yeah. He said something broke on the car.
Oh, okay. Something broke.
Yeah.
Probably cut the tire by it breaking and spinning. So makes sense.
Yeah.
But just bad luck there for BJ McLeod. But that's why these shit boxes are shit boxes, because that was the only car that actually broke in the race. And then Casey Mears just drove straight through whoever it was. I forget who it was, but he just drove. Oh, Noah Gragson. Casey Mears didn't slow down in that crash and just drove straight through Noah Gragson, which of course he drove straight through Noah Gragson earlier in the week as well in the duel. So he and Noah Gragson are somehow magnets for each other at Daytona, apparently, in 1 week.
Yeah. The unfortunate, or the maybe not frustrating thing, but you'll get what I'm saying here, is that McLeod got into the race because he didn't race his way into this race. And he got in because Anthony Alfredo got disqualified after the duel, which then default put BJ McLeod in, who was involved in a wreck, and then they had to spend all night repairing that car. So it's kind of frustrating then for that car to break on lap 4.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't even supposed to be in the race, and they clearly just didn't. Maybe they didn't get the car fixed. I don't know. You don't really know, but it's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Shout out to Cody Ware. Speaking of shit boxes, top 20 finish. You and I were both on that. Solid odds there. Always fun that's some of my favorite bets, are betting on the shit boxes. Like, you remember the shit box specials that they did like twice last year? Like, always
Cody Ware is no longer a shit box. But
there's a statement.
I told you, I think he's going to finish ahead of Ty Dillon in the standings, the overall standings. Cody Ware legitimately took the lead. Like, this wasn't a fuel saving strategy one like he had in his first Daytona leading, last time we were at Daytona when he led 23 laps, I think it was. This was like, he went out there and just took it. And that was pretty cool. And then he lost it really quick, but at least he took it on pure speed and ability. And people are starting to trust Cody Ware in the draft.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this team, like, obviously his car looked decent on Sunday. Usually he's off the pace and getting lapped. Like, we've had that frequently, and he did go a lap down, I think, but I think it's because he lost the draft right at that second stage.
That pit stop, he had a little bit slower pit stop, and that's the problem I think he's going to face. Is his pit crew is just, it's not a top tier pit crew. And so that'll cost him things like the draft at Daytona, or just maybe a lap down from a bad pit stop sooner than he would go a lap down type stuff. at other races. So, yeah, it wasn't because he drove a shitbox. It was because his pit crew was kind of a shitbox.
Yeah. And here's a comment here. I think Ware and Custer both have legit mid-pack cars this year, and that's kind of what I want to see. You know, when we get past Daytona, we get past Atlanta, we get to the actual normal races of the season. I want to see if these guys are improved enough where they're not, you know, because typically Cody Ware and kind of Cole Custer, but definitely like a BJ McLeod, they're kind of close, but they're not. Like, you know, it's going to take some attrition in the race. They're not going to legitimately run up there into the mid-20s. But if we could possibly see that from Ware, that, you know, that'd be a big step for that organization for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with all that. And yeah, I would say mid-pack is maybe a bit of a stretch. I would say like lower tier mid-pack, but I know what you mean. Like maybe a 27th to 32nd place car most weeks, instead of a 35th or 34th or 36th place car most weeks. So a little step up, but I agree. I think they'll be improved. The RCR alliance with Rick Ware and the HMS alliance with Cole Custer and Haas factory team.
And those are just like, I know we're going to be talking about them in DFS this year because they're going to be priced down there super low. And will it make sense some weeks? And we'll just have to, you know, time will tell if it'll make sense to take them, you know, because of where they were historically. If they bump it up a notch, you know, all of a sudden it makes sense. But speaking of DFS, we almost had overlay in the big NASCAR contest.
Yeah, really close. It didn't fill.
I definitely didn't fill. Yeah, it did. I think. Let me check here. I know I did the math, and they basically broke even on the contest.
Yeah,
it was a 1.5 million contest. They broke even on it,
which is not good for next year.
Oh, that's not good at all for next year. But
yeah, it'll be $1 million contest with 400,000 or 350 or 300,000 a first next year, probably.
Yeah, they had exactly 10,000 entries not fill in that race, which obviously isn't good. But I'm just hoping, like, maybe DraftKings will take a look and realize that every other contest filled early. Like, there were so many contests that I wanted to play that were filled at 10 a.m. And then you just had this big one that had an awful price structure. That didn't fill. Like, they don't need to destroy every other contest because they can't properly, you know, make the payout structure for the big one correct where people want to play it. Or where it makes sense to play it. Like we talk about this every year. The payout structure doesn't make sense to really play. You have to assume you're going to lose outside of, you know, hitting the top 5 positions.
Yeah, and I knew fully going in, I'm probably donating 20-30% ROI in that tournament. Not ROI, but just on average at my ROI long term. I think I had a very good chance of winning the whole thing, but I didn't win the whole thing. So I ended up losing money. But there'll be times where I lose 20-30% of my entries. So I think I entered whatever 3,000 or whatever it is to max enter, and I cashed out 2,000 ballpark, so I lost about 33% of my entries in that one, in the big one. But at the same time, when you do hit, it's going to more than make up for it. And I feel like my probability of hitting is still higher than most people. And obviously I did the fun, take the screenshot of when you're leading the thing, which I was actually legitimately leading. Like I was leading after one of the big ones, and my cars were running up there for a good chunk of time. I was bouncing around between anywhere from like $16,000 to $500,000 for about 20 laps. So it was really nice to have that, but I also know it's not going to last because everything's going to change. We still have another round of pit stops, maybe another stage. I can't remember at the time. So I obviously jokingly tweeted like, I'm hold or whatever. I don't remember what I said, but obviously I knew it wasn't going to last, but I just like to do it for the memes, for the fun, just because it's hilarious. But, at the end of the day, I didn't make the top 5, and it's not going to cut it essentially in that format of a contest. And it is a shitty format. I promise you, it's a shitty format. I know going in probably 9 times out of 10, I'm going to lose, like I said, 30,000 or not 30,000, 30%. But then the other times will make up for it, more than make up for it typically. So it's just the nature of the beast with that type of payout structure. It's terrible, but I'm not going to play it just because I feel like I have a pretty decent edge.
Mm-hmm. going back to DFS, looking at the highest drafted drivers in that contest, it was Byron, Buescher, Cindric, the top three, 54, 49, 44%. Obviously, Buescher and Byron, big scores. Cindric, though, only 10 fantasy points that day. Chastain was up there. He had a good, decent day, 45.5. And then we had Allgaier, Hamlin, who both had less than 7 points. Bubba, Allmendinger, Reddick all had good days. And then Zilish, Ty Dillon, Alex Bowman. So it was kind of, I know you weren't able to join me on the live stream, but I talked about it on Sunday. I'm like, there's so much good people in the back. You can't fade it all. You kind of have to just, and not all of them are going to hit either, most likely. But the the highest probability is that some of them are going to. So you have to really, juggle how you want to build your lineups. And, that's exactly what happened. And I'm kicking myself because Reddick was one of my favorite plays. Like, I loved Reddick. And I had him when I did all my lineups. He was in like a ton of my high dollar contests. And I edited it, right before the race, because I'm like, I can't be this heavy on one guy in high dollar. Like I don't want to do that today. And, of course it's him. Like it's not the.
It's funny because most weeks I love playing high dollar. I don't like playing high dollar for super speedways. I just want to go for the big fucking tournament win. And then I'll play high dollar on like the normal races, which I feel like I do best at high dollar on the normal races. So I tend not to do the 150 max anymore when I do play on other normal races. I used to back in the 2015 to 18, 19 era, but moving to Vegas and focusing on sports betting after that, it's like, all right, well, I got other stuff to make me thousands or potentially thousands of dollars in other ways. So, DFS kind of just fell by the wayside for me. Not that I didn't pay attention to it. Obviously you and I talk about it every week and stuff, and I do projections for it. And I do projections anyway, because I want to project for my bets. So it makes sense to just do DFS projections. But like, I hadn't played a ton in the past 5 years or so, let's say, in terms of normal races outside of super speedways, because I will try to max enter most of the super speedways. But I definitely will be playing more this year, and I'm super excited about it because, like I said, I've made such good improvements to my model. My model, by the way, kicked ass. It's Daytona super speedway. You don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like I had the appropriate level of stuff fine-tuned, like even the rain percentage or rain out percentage, ending early. Like there was a legitimate chance had a big one occurred and they had to throw a red flag or an early pop-up sell, and that race could have ended at lap 180 or 190 or something,
And that's something I forgot to mention.
The big rainstorm came. So it was like my model, I felt like was appropriately attuned to the chaos where on average, 40+% of the drivers, will DNF, but sometimes it'll be lower and sometimes it'll be higher. And we had 30 of the 41 drivers finish within one lap of the lead, which is almost 75%. So only just north of a 25% major incident rate, essentially. And, at the same time, I think it was only 17 cars, something like that, finished. Maybe it was 13. I forget. I posted it in the Action Network Discord. But it was something like only 13 cars finished within striking distance of the lead. I think after Daniel Suarez or maybe after Ty Dillon or somebody, like the rest of the pack was like 17 seconds down. So it was only in the mid-teens that actually finished within striking distance of the lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had 25 cars end up on the lead lap, which is, a decent number. But it's also, we had guys like that got in wrecks and still repaired the car and came back out, and that it's also this car, it's built like a tank, and it can withstand quite a bit of damage, and that's what we're going to end up seeing outside of guys getting absolutely totaled is, if they just get into the wall like Byron, maybe with that old car with his first wreck, he probably would have been done, but no, he was up there. He finished 12th. Hell, he was 40-1 live at the end. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense because he's still in this. He can still get up there.
Absolutely. And I looked up, it was 13 drivers finished on the lead pack. The 14th place on back, Ty Dillon on back, got slowed down by that first wreck enough that they lost the lead draft and finished like 15 to 18 seconds down. So Yeah, it was still a chaos race, even though it wasn't an attrition chaos. It was still chaos. Like we had our share of incidents. And I think that's another product of the season-long points. Teams are bandaging up their cars and just going more rather than packing it up. You know what I mean? Because of winning in. So, I mean, we saw Austin Dillon ride around with a completely ripped off front bumper again, front hood, I should say. And, those are the things we used to see a decade and a half ago. And we haven't really seen in the last 5 or 10 years, but we got to see it again, which I think is awesome.
I'll always remember the dual race, or I think it was the dual race that Christopher Bell won, and his car was just destroyed. But Denny Hamlin was so fast that he pushed the shitbox car.
Eric Jones.
Eric Jones. Yep. Yeah. It was the 20 car, though, right?
Yeah, it was the 20 car. It was Eric Jones in the preseason clash.
Tyler Red Dog 33-1 in person might be my favorite gambling win ever. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
My favorite one, and it was the one that was in person. So those always feel the best. So huge congrats on Tyler Reddick 33-1 to win. That's a big hit. Congratulations.
Absolutely. And it feels weird. Like I'm still getting.
Now you got to do what I did. Print out your ticket. I'll go on the internet, screenshot it, print it out, and I did a little editing because there's other stuff that's normally in the Caesars ticket here, so I just color matched and erased it, with paint editor or whatever, and then had Kyle sign it. So now you got to get Reddick to sign it.
Going back to DFS, you won't be able to pick DK lineups now since pricing isn't out on Monday. Yeah, it sucks. We'll have to tweet out our early week stuff.
Submit it on like whenever the pricing comes out. You and I will submit one each to each other.
Yeah. We'll work around it. Like I said, if these Monday shows don't work out, then we can try to figure them out and move them. But that is what it is right now. Speaking of DFS, my whine about it is I've yet to have a good DFS day at Atlanta since the repave missiled. Yeah, we got Atlanta coming up this week. I obviously miss old Atlanta. God, I made over 4 years there. I made 30,000. I always crushed old Atlanta. I think I've had a couple good days since then, since the repave. But I do. I miss old Atlanta as well, even though we've gotten some great finishes at this new Atlanta as well. Obviously looking ahead there to this week's race, but let's see here. What else we got from Daytona?
Let me look. Yeah, we talked about the level of chaos. Oh, dude, Circa, thank you for giving us no's on top 10s, top 5s. I saw that. I crushed the no's. I hit 7 of 8 no top 10 bets because they were pricing Denny Hamlin at like minus 130, William Byron at minus 145. Dude, in a completely random race of, let's say, 40 cars instead of 41, that means only 25% of drivers finish in the top 10. And this is as close to completely random as it gets. Now, it's not. So the best drivers have about a 35. My model gave Ryan Blaney the highest chance of finishing in the top 10 at 35.5%, I think it was. Greg Mathern's model had 33.3%, essentially 2-1 as fair, which means minus 200 for the no side of things. And they're giving us minus 130, minus 145. I bet every single one with a 1 in front of it. And I also bet Carson Hocevar at minus 200 because, I had a more mid-pack, so less chance to finish top 10 than the top guys like Blaney at 35 or 33, right? So I had him closer to 25% to average, maybe a little above average even, but knowing how aggressive he is and how he can get in crazy, situations just because he's so aggressive, I figured I liked him to not top 10 even more than my model did, I think. And so, minus 200 on him was easy because that should be the best driver would be minus 200 to not top 10. So shout outs to Circa. I didn't get to track those obviously because that's the only place that offered the no top 10s as far as I'm aware. And I'm not going to track it if it's only at Circa, even if it was only at the score or something, I probably wouldn't track it, but I would tell people like, hey, bet this. So shout outs to Circa for some really bad pricing on that. They're very sharp. I thought their outright pricing was super, super sharp. I made a few outright bets. It was the same guys I pretty much talked about. Stenhouse 40-1. I made it at Circa instead of what other book I tracked it at because it's a lot easier to get bet sizes down at Circa, but yeah, it was a very nice thing to see the no top 10 prices come out with ones in front of them.
Yeah. I saw the tweet that, or the screenshot where you said that, that they were drunk making those lines. I didn't know what the odds were, but yeah, those were definitely, and we saw that last year too. When books started offering no's on race wins, I think Caesars started doing it, and there were opportunities where you could just arbitrage bet between that and another book, because you could know, and you could bet no and the win and make money. Like,
yeah, I was doing that a lot with like certain drivers, and I would tweet out like, "Hey, just got myself a free case of Tecate."
Right? Like, it's always fun when but yeah, hopefully they keep offering it, because like a lot of times when they get smoked like that, especially week one, they stop.
Yeah.
At least like the Caesars of the world or the draft.
Circa's committed to doing it. They said they should have top 10 for not every race. I think they said select races, which obviously the Daytona 500 will be. I'm sure they'll do the Crown Jewels and maybe a few others, but I have a feeling it'll be much better with their top 10 pricing at the other races.
Right. Yeah. Correct.
Circa's not afraid to take a licking. They learn quick. They're not afraid to take an early licking and then figure it out from there. They once hung maybe the worst NBA All-Star line you will ever see. I think they were something like 70. The closing line moved 70 points. They hung like a really bad, I think they hung a really bad total on the All-Star game, and the line moved like 70 points up by a close.
Wow.
So they're not afraid to make mistakes. They learn quick, and they don't constantly fuck up. That's why they make a lot of money.
Yeah. Let's see here. Anything else from Daytona for you?
Just scrolling through this finishing order. Yeah, Bubba was really hard on himself, but I mean, he felt like he had an amazing chance this week to pick up his first 500 win, Daytona 500 win. It didn't work out, but he shouldn't be kicking himself. He drove a great race. That's just the nature of the beast. And then looking through, SVG ran really nice. Obviously, a lot of it was from the fuel saving stuff. He was running up front. We saw a lot of drivers hang back like almost the whole race. We saw Ryan Preece, for example, just hung back the whole race. And it didn't work out because then he ended up getting caught in the stuff in the end. Anyway, drove backward to finish. I don't know if you saw that video, but
I did.
Yeah, that was funny. But like, I was surprised at some of the drivers that literally just hung in the back the whole time until it was go time at the end. I thought Priest would try to mix it up there at the front, but he never really did.
Yeah, and I think part of that does go back to this new mindset of how they run these races. It's there's no urgency. And if you don't put an emphasis on stage points, or you can hang back and go for the stage if it's not too dicey. We see a lot of people, if it gets too dicey there at the stage, they'll drop out, get to the third lane and go to the back. But and then I guess the other thing that I was thinking about, you say anything else? I have two more things actually. But first is Denny Hamlin was to address your point here. Denny Hamlin was talking about like, let's use the preseason clash as a test, at Daytona, try something different, try crazy horsepower and let us go faster and see if that eliminates the fuel save type stuff, So I thought that was a brilliant idea by Denny Hamlin, but we do need to figure something out because the fuel save stuff puts a little damper on it, or eliminate the stages, give stage points, but eliminate the yellow flag for them. That'll shake things up. That'll also keep the field trying to stay towards the front because stage points will matter. You know what I think would be fun? Double the stage points for the Daytona 500. So instead of 10 through 1, it's 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, that really force them to want to be at the front for the Daytona 500. And that way, they're racing hard the whole race and don't throw the caution for the stage. That'll keep them up front. That'll eliminate the fuel save completely. I think if you really incentivize a stage win and don't have stage cautions, that'll do the trick. Not just stage win, but stage points in general. 20 points, dude, that is a lot.
I think that might be a solution. Just do it for the 500. All the other super speedway races, I still think if you eliminate the stage cautions, that'll probably help. But at least for the 500, we want hard ass racing for the 500, right? Like we don't want them riding around. I think that's a great. I think I just solved it. There we go. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, Jordan, I can now lose 1 unit for the next 9 races and still be profitable.
There we go.
On the betting side of things. Let's go.
It's always a good start to the year.
But, and that doesn't even include the non-tracked bets from Circa and stuff like that. So just a fantastic race. And I actually didn't get to track a couple of the head-to-heads I wrote up in my article. So if you played all 5 head-to-heads in my article, as I did, the article went out overnight. And by the time I woke up, the lines had already moved. I didn't want to track them until the article came out because it's big for action to get a lot of views on the article. So I ended up 3 of them moved to like plus 110. And at that point, I'm like, the value's kind of thin there. So I'll just not track those. But if you played all the article head-to-heads, you made even more. And then also if you played those no's at Circa, you made even more. So I cleaned up on betting this week, which way more than made up for my DFS losses. I had a super profitable week betting, and I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, like I said, that's always good to start off the year on the winning side. I wish I would have bet more on Cody Ware top 10 or top 20. That was my biggest bet of the week. I didn't find a lot of bets that I liked, surprisingly.
I had 25 in my article, so I did.
yeah, that's crazy. But I also said, like, my plan this year was to kind of take a step back from betting a little bit more and focus more on DFS. So, and
the live Toyota bet. Oh, that was clutch money.
Yeah. That was the same. I think FanDuel was kind of sleeping there on everything because, like I said, they had Byron sitting there at 40-1. They had Noah
Gragson. They had Noah Gragson 8-1 for a top 10 when he came out after that last pit stop, like 11th.
Yeah. Did you? So that was kind of fun to see. DraftKings or FanDuel offering live top 10s and live head-to-heads. Did you notice that?
Top 3s, top 5s, top 10s, winning manufacturer, some head-to-heads. They offered a lot of live markets. It's only going to be for the 500, I'm sure, but it was nice to have. Kudos to them for doing that.
Yeah, it was great to see that. And, obviously we can be hopeful and hope that they do get or keep that going, but I'd be surprised if they do.
Yeah, same.
DraftKings did not, looking ahead here at Atlanta, DraftKings didn't kill the contest as the big GPP as much as I thought they would. Obviously, they probably had it pre-planned, but we got a $400,000 total prize pool, $20 entry fee, $100,000 going to first, $100,000 to first, 40 to second, 20 to third, 10 to fourth. So still very top heavy, but I kind of thought they'd kill it a little bit more, but I think maybe last year, second race of the season was a $500,000 contest. So maybe they killed it more than I thought they would. Or that I remember.
You and I will be doing it out in the high dollar streets. Maybe not this week. Maybe I'll do some more GPP flyer type stuff because it's, another drafting race, but you and I will be battling out in the high dollar streets soon.
Oh yeah. You mentioned Penske not looking as good at Daytona as normal. That's something I want to keep an eye on for Atlanta because them and Hendrick have had a stranglehold on Atlanta since this new repave. And they've just look at laps led and everything else. Penske has been dominant. So it'll be interesting to see if they just had an off Daytona or maybe the Chevys did bridge the gap a little bit. Cause like we talked about last week, this new Chevy body, obviously I didn't notice anything super specific, but maybe I wasn't looking closely as far as how these Chevys were performing, but something to keep an eye on there moving forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously Kyle Busch and a Chevy was on the pole.
Yeah, that was kind of a big deal. Chevy winning the pole again at the super speedway. It hadn't happened in a long time. If it wasn't Ford, it was randomly occasionally a Toyota like Briscoe last year. But it's pretty much been Ford since Ford went to their new bodies and Toyota went to their new bodies. So good to see the shakeup with the new Chevy body. If you took Chevy to win the pole, like I talked about that, I think on Running Hot a couple weeks ago, I thought that was an interesting bet. The odds didn't end up being as long as I thought. So it was only, I think, plus 180 for the one book that maybe had a winning pole manufacturer. So it opened plus 180. I was like, I thought it was gonna be more like in the twos because they haven't even been close to winning poles. But yeah, they won the pole. So good stuff there.
Yeah, we look at qualifying results from Daytona weekend. Kyle Busch obviously on the pole. Then it was Briscoe in a Toyota. Ryan Preece was third quickest in a Ford, and then Hamlin, Heim, Bowman, Larson. So Toyota, Chevy. There were only 3 Fords in the top 10, and 2 of them were in 8th and 10th. So
yeah,
we know that these Fords have had the speed in qualifying on these super speedways recently, but they might have been taking a step back.
I wouldn't say they've taken a step back. Yeah, I would say the others have taken a step forward.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So moving on, I know you typically you mentioned last week we're not gonna be as prepared as we normally are to talk about the upcoming race weekend, but we do have Atlanta, or as it's called now, Echo Park Speedway, coming up this weekend, the second drafting track in a row. Kyle Busch, who was just on the pole for the Daytona 500, he has the best average finish over the last 3 years at Atlanta, 8.8. So we talk about Atlanta and kind of the differences between Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta. Atlanta's obviously also a drafting track, but it is more, I don't want to say easier for the top performing guys to finish up front, but it's much more likely. It's much more likely for Ryan Blaney to lead a bunch of laps here. It's much more likely for a Kyle Busch and even like a Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who has 4 top 10s over the last 6 races here. No finish worse than 17th. It's what do I want to say, more predictable than a Daytona while still being unpredictable?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think that's the best way I can put it.
Yep, I would agree with that.
But yeah, you look at, average driver rating over the last 6 races at Atlanta, Joey Logano number 1, Ryan Blaney number 2, Austin Cindric number 3. Like I said, Penske's just had a stranglehold on this racetrack. Laps led over those 6 races, Logano's number 1 with 321, Cindric has 198, and then we got Brad Keselowski with 114. Ryan Blaney right after that. So should be hopefully another good race. We've seen some good finishes at Atlanta. Obviously, Christopher Bell won last year. In what I think was an exciting race. I know I was excited because I live bet him at 40-1. So I was very excited for him to win that race. But in the June race last year, the winner was Chase Elliott, who, how many times has he won on this new Atlanta? I think that it's at least twice, maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
But also last fall, we had Tyler Reddick finished 4th. Obviously, he's coming off that Daytona 500 win. Wouldn't be surprised to see him competing here at Atlanta this weekend. By the way, I'm never calling it Echo Park, ever. I refuse. It's Atlanta. Never calling it Echo Park.
I probably will be required to for articles, but outside of that, yeah, it's Atlanta.
Yeah. Any guys in particular that you're kind of leaning toward early on in this week that kind of catch your eye for Atlanta that maybe might be a surprise at all?
No. I mean, it's really tough to say. I think you have to like Hendrick Motorsports, given the new body and how well they looked, and how well Chevy looked in qualifying. If there's a little bit of boost in qualifying speed, and we already know Hendrick and Penske have dominated Atlanta, you kind of just have to look at them. But does that bring Cole Custer up in there,
Right.
maybe as the only real surprise? But I think I'm not really looking towards, I mean, those Spire cars look good. The Spire cars look great. Hocevar, McDowell. I don't know what Suarez was doing all day. It seemed like he might have been on the ride around strategy. Didn't really notice him, but we know Suarez is great at Atlanta. So I think the Spires could surprise. I think Cole Custer could surprise. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. If you want like surprises, I think it could be from that Chevy group. By the way, because we're talking about kind of Penske didn't lead as much at the super speedway, at Daytona, are they going to lead as much at Atlanta? And guess how many laps Team Penske led in the Daytona 500? The whole team.
12?
16, but close.
16.
Joey Logano had 9. Austin Cindric had 5, and Ryan Blaney had 2. They didn't dominate that race.
And that was with Logano starting third, because that was I bet over 44.5 for any driver to lead that amount of laps led. And I was like, if someone's going to control this race early.
All of Ford, Chris Buescher, 4 laps led. Brad Keselowski, 0 laps led. We know Kes loves leading at Daytona.
Yep.
0 laps led. Ryan Preece, 0 laps led. Todd Gilliland, 1 lap led. Zane Smith, 9. He and Joey Logano, I think, tied for the most Ford laps led at 9. And then Noah Gragson, 0, I believe. Where is he? Yeah, 0. So Josh Berry, 1 in a Penske affiliate. So Ford really got boxed out of leading, which is unusual because everybody coming in was saying, "Oh, Ford top manufacturer," right? And they weren't. And so now translate that to Atlanta. I think you have to like those Chevys, if you want surprises. So, and one more thing, I keep going back to Daytona, but look at the last 5 winners of the Daytona 500. Last 6: Reddick, Byron, Stenhouse, Cindric, McDowell. All of them were 20-1 or longer at some point in the week. Both years Byron won, he hit 20 or even 22-1 in those years. If we look at what I would call the elite super speedway drivers, so Kes, Elliott, Byron, Hamlin, Joey Logano, Blaney, Austin Cindric. Am I forgetting anybody? Some people like to throw Kyle Busch since he was the race favorite, at close at some shops there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers who've each started all of those races. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 8 is 48. So out of 48 entries, they've won twice, which is 1 in 24, right? Like, you just cannot bet the favorites at Daytona. You just cannot do it. It is not possible. You have to bet 18-1 or longer. I will accept 18-1 because my model had, I think, 18-1 as like, I was really aggressive with the distribution I used for Blaney, which got him down to like plus 1,600 as fair value in my model. But again, that's like break even. I would need at least 18 to have enough edge there. So yeah, I really don't think you can bet shorter than 18-1 on any driver at a super speedway. I shouldn't say the super speedway, at a chaos super speedway, which now is only the Daytona 500. But moving to Atlanta, I think you definitely can get below that because, like you said, it's chaos, but more predictable in terms of the finishing order. Not a lot more, but more than Daytona.
Yeah, we see a lot of the same guys finish, or like more consistent finishes up front, and they do have odds out. Caesars does. I just pulled up Caesars. They do have odds for Atlanta this upcoming weekend. Blaney and Logano are the co-favorites at 10-1 over at Caesars. We got Chase Elliott at 12, Larson at 14, Cindric at 14, Byron at 15. Last week's race winner, Tyler Reddick, he's sitting at 22-1. He finished 4th last summer, 6th the summer before here at Atlanta. Could be a decent option there. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 33-1. And one guy, and I was going to ask you about this when we were talking about Chevy earlier, and I forgot. I'm curious to see how this guy performs because we talked about it last week. Whether this team is going to take a step back overall. That's Colleague Racing and AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger has not finished worse than 16th at this new Atlanta. He's finished 16th, 3rd, 14th, and 12th. Wow. That is a solid record for a guy, especially for a guy like AJ Allmendinger at a track like this. So someone to keep an eye on this week. And like I said, a lot of these other guys are the favorites up there. See if anybody else catches my eye here in terms of the odds. Again, I'm just looking at Caesars right now. I'm not looking at everything else. But yeah, Reddick kind of took my eye there. Last year's winner, Bell, sitting at 16. Hocevar's at 20-1. He has a decent record here on the new Atlanta. 4 races, finishes of 10th, 2nd, 16th, and 19th. So, and then Kyle Busch, 18th. Like I said, best average finish on this new Atlanta is Kyle Busch. Yep. He 21st last summer, but before that, 7th, 3rd, and 5th.
Yeah, he was part of that 3-wide finish with Suarez winning, one of the closest finishes of all time. I think it was 0.003 seconds. So, he was part of that 3-wide finish with Blaney and Suarez.
I hit the wrong button there. I don't know if you noticed when I went full screen.
I didn't notice.
I meant to mute myself. I went full screen of just my face.
Oh, nice. That's exactly what the viewers want to see.
Right. Yeah. But no, Kyle Busch at 18-1, if he gets on the pole again, with his record here at Atlanta, I don't mind sprinkling, if I had to right now, I don't mind sprinkling on Kyle Busch and maybe a Tyler Reddick already. But again, I took today completely off. First off day I've had in a long time.
So, got through Super Bowl, got through Daytona 500. Didn't touch a thing today. This is actually the first time I pulled up the odds board, was right now as we were talking about it.
Same. Yeah.
I don't have any opinions. I don't have any opinions on what I would bet right now. Most weeks I will. I'll probably at least have something, but I slept in. I played some chess on my phone. I watched YouTube. Like, I did nothing today. I was a lazy ass. And it was a long time coming because I've been I've got college basketball stuff I need to start doing. So I really just wanted to not do anything today, and I didn't. I'm not counting Stacking Dennys, which is different, but I'm saying like in terms of like work. So it's like my first day off in a long time. I think I would get on board with that Kyle Busch as well. Kyle Larson is kind of interesting. I know he has not won at a super speedway drafting track, but like he gets closer and closer every year, it seems like. And I feel like Atlanta is probably his best shot of the drafting tracks. So maybe a Larson. But yeah, I'm maybe just look at like Chevy winning manufacturer type stuff.
Yeah, I think Chevy's going to have another good day. Larson, by the way, another race of no top 5. He's never finished in the top 5 at Daytona ever.
Yeah.
That's a fun little stat that, came across last week. And it's surprising because we've seen him run up front. He did finish 3rd here at Atlanta last year. So maybe he gets it. But other than that, he's had bad luck at this new Atlanta. His last 6 races here: 17th, 3rd, 37th, 32nd, 36th, 31st. Before that, when did New Atlanta come in? 2022 or 2023?
2022.
Yeah, those 2 races, 30th and 13th. So,
by the way, remember last week we did Will They Win? Tyler Reddick already got the Will They Win because he wasn't a winner last year.
Yep.
Alex Bowman this week.
Is that your pick to win?
No, I'm just saying, if we're like in Chevy on the Will They Win, we could have 2 drivers that have been winners in the past. I wouldn't necessarily say super regular. Now, Reddick has 9. And I think Bowman has 7 wins or something in his career. But I think this is a good shot to have both of them already hit the 8 wins for Bowman in his career. I think it's a great shot for both of them to already hit the yes on the Will You Win.
And that would be a good start to the season, I think, as 2 guys that didn't win last year getting wins right off the bat. I think just for the plot, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Especially for Bowman, because he finished 39th or something in the 500. Yeah, 40th. Bowman's 40th, so he's 36th in points, only ahead of Chase Briscoe and BJ McLeod.
Wow, hell of a start.
Chase Briscoe has 2 points. Ouch.
Not that great for him. Sorry, I'm looking at something else on the side.
You're fine.
You're fine. Yeah. All right. You have anything else for Atlanta?
Well, no. I mean, we didn't really. Normally, we talk about like season standings and stuff. It's kind of a little early, but Tyler Reddick with the win, of course, the new 15-point increase for a win, 55 points now, has a 12-point lead on Joey Logano. Then we've got
Zane
Chase
Smith,
Elliott,
fourth and
Zane
points.
Smith, Ricky Stenhouse. Now we always see this stuff early in the year, but there's a legitimate chance after Atlanta, Riley Herbst could be like 6th or 7th in points if he has another good finish, because some of these guys in front of him will have bad days. And if Riley Herbst just has a clean day and is able to get another top 10 finish, we could be talking about Riley Herbst top 10 in points at some point in the NASCAR season.
Crazy. And I'll tell you what, Zane Smith sitting 4th in points. He's another guy to keep an eye on. Last year at Atlanta, he finished 7th and 11th.
Yeah, that's a great point. What do you think about Toyota for Atlanta? Because we didn't address any of the Toyotas.
I mean, it's hard not to like them, right? They're coming off a strong Daytona. Reddick obviously won. Here at Atlanta, Chevy seems to have, like with this new or on the new track, Chevy seems to have better results and definitely better results, but just definitely overall running better.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's going to be, how's the Ford, did Chevy and Toyota bridge the gap enough? I still think Chevy's the favorite to win this race.
Yeah, by far.
Yeah. But it wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, I think Tyler Reddick could go back to back. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. No. Mm-mm. Christopher Bell, I feel like, has always been good at Atlanta. We know
he's boomer bust here.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Last 6 races, 3 top 5s, 3 finishes of 23rd or worse. Like just pure.
He also had that one. Didn't he get like disqualified or something? But he finished like second.
He went below the yellow line,
double line. Yeah.
Yep.
He got not disqualified, but I think he got moved to the back end of the lead lap or something as the penalty.
And what's interesting with him is he doesn't qualify well here. The last 5 races, he started 28th, 32nd, 26th, 22nd, and 34th.
A lot of that's just Toyota qualifying issues in general from the next gen era since they went to the new body, but they have gotten better at it. I wonder, how, if you filter all the Toyotas, who's the best qualifier at Atlanta? I would assume maybe Briscoe last year, but I don't recall Atlanta specific qualifying from the Toyotas.
Briscoe qualified 25th and 10th last year. Let me pull up these. Just looking at last year.
Yeah.
It was Ford, Chevy, Ford. The top.
See what I'm saying? Like Toyota might have some qualifying issues here in general.
Yeah. And then in the summer race, it was Ford, Chevy, and then the first Toyota was Briscoe in 10th. Yeah. Ford.
So yeah, I do think Toyota again is making gains, but I think you got to lean Ford and Chevy for the pole here. But I mean, if you're looking to play early week DFS like you and I are going to do, we don't have a chance to do our early week lineup because it's Monday and things aren't out yet. But probably look to stack some Toyotas in your line, right? Because they'll likely qualify the poorest among like average manufacturer qualifying position, but they race just fine here. So it'll be interesting. John Hunter Nemechek, how will he do? Eric Jones, we know he's aggressive and sometimes pops towards the front of Atlanta, especially in the early years of Atlanta next gen. Bubba Wallace is always up there at Atlanta, it feels like. So, Toyota's going to be strong in the race.
Last year.
Yeah, Toyota's going to be strong in the race. They just may not qualify well.
Yeah, you look at the first the qualifying results of the first Atlanta, going back to that, like I said, all the Fords, but just looking at the top 21 qualifiers, there was 2 Toyotas, Bubba Wallace at 14th and Tyler Reddick at 18th. Everyone else was Ford or Chevy.
Yeah.
And then even so Bubba and Reddick had top 10 finishes in the first stage last year. Reddick also finished in the top 10 in the second stage, but Bubba finished second in the second stage. So those two were running well all day. The Gibbs Toyotas did not And maybe that was, I don't remember if that was strategy or not. Obviously, Bell won the race, but just some noteworthy stuff there. And then, yeah, the second race here, Bubba had a 10th place finish in stage 1, and Nemechek finished 9th in stage 2. Jones finished 5th, and Reddick won the stage.
Yeah, be some good Toyotas in the field. It's an interesting race because, like, just looking like even at BJ McLeod, he finished 22nd last year on the lead lap, ahead of some cars. Like even the ship boxes can still finish better than they expect better than most other races at Atlanta. So BJ McLeod and 16th in the second race on the lead lap, again, ahead of some other cars. So, obviously BJ McLeod is not in 36 for 36, but if you have some interesting fantasy formats, there's a potential you could even use him in whatever random format you may have that it would be beneficial to use him. But my whole point is, like, even the ship boxes can still finish on the lead lap here and ahead of some other cars that are in good equipment. I mean, BJ McLeod finished ahead of Kyle Larson in the most recent Atlanta race on the lead lap. Ahead of Kyle Larson, ahead of Michael McDowell, ahead of Cole Custer, ahead of Austin Dillon, ahead of Kyle Busch. Those are perfectly good to great cars.
Capable cars.
Yeah.
The ship boxes are these weeks.
Yeah.
You want to know someone who's ran like a shit box here? Maybe not ran like it, but finish-wise is a shit box at Atlanta. And even going back to old Atlanta, this one might surprise you. We just talked about him a little bit. He's got it. He's deep in the points. Could be looking at another bad race.
Who?
Chase Briscoe.
Really?
Has not finished top 20 here since 2022. And then dating back to old Atlanta, has never finished better than 15th at this racetrack.
That's just wild because he's so good at high tire wear tracks. You think like Homestead, Darlington,
right?
He's usually really good at those. But I'm looking through Xfinity 2019, 15th at Atlanta, 2018, 15th at Atlanta, 2020 Xfinity, again, still before the reconfigured, 9th at Atlanta. That's in a year he finished 4th in the championship standings and won a shit ton of races. Probably was the best car that season, but didn't have it happen, at Phoenix where it kind of counts. If we go to the Truck Series, 25th at Atlanta, like, how is he just not good at Atlanta but good at other high tire wear tracks? It doesn't make sense.
Right? It doesn't. It's one of those. It's kind of like Blaney at Richmond.
Yeah, which, he's gotten better at Richmond. He's gotten better at Darlington and Homestead, which were all tracks that he struggled with earlier in his career. So I think you have to think Chase Briscoe would have eventually gotten better at old Atlanta, but there's no more old Atlanta. Now it's new Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not Echo Park. Here's an interesting question. Any thoughts on Keselowski this weekend? I asked because with his bad leg, this might be a good week to use him versus other tracks that would require a lot more legwork, such as Coda next week.
Sure, you could use him. It's just his leg is going to continue healing, and he will be perfectly capable of winning. I mean, he almost won Kansas last year, right? Like, he blew a tire while going for the lead on Chase Elliott, and had just passed Kyle Larson, who was the fastest car that day in Kansas 1 last year. Keselowski will be in contention for multiple wins this year later in the season, so I don't think he's a must-use at Atlanta right now. I would much rather use him when I know his leg is fully healed. I think that's and certainly you could use him at a super speedway if you want. There are 6 of them, but you want to use lower tier cars at drafting tracks. You just do. It's just the best strategy for if you're talking 36 for 36.
I would say I'm assuming this is for 36 for 36, but it could be just in general.
But in other formats, I certainly like Keselowski, obviously, at drafting tracks in general.
I also I understand he hurt his leg, but I also don't really subscribe to that affecting these drivers too much, just because of what we've seen in the past with drivers coming off of bad injuries. Obviously, concussions and back injuries we've seen it happen more, but leg issues, I feel like I mean, you
this
remember
this one though is a femur. Like that is one of the hardest bones in the body to break, maybe the hardest bone in the body to break. And he broke his femur. That is a super important bone in your body. I actually think it could affect him at a coda or at tracks where you need braking, because you're not just using, I mean, maybe he is only a 1 foot breaker, but 1 foot, as we see, like, if you look at SVG with his heel toe stuff, I think he's 1 foot, but some other drivers are 2 foot on road courses and stuff. So it just really depends on Brad's technique at these other tracks. Does he use 2 feet? Does he use 1 foot? I don't know Brad's techniques and all that, but I mean, you're not using Brad at road courses anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If Brad was perfectly healthy, we're still not using him at Coda. Right? Like he's not a good road racer. Especially now that he's older and he's on RFK. Like in his younger days at Penske, he was good at Watkins Glen, and that was it. He was terrible at Sonoma. But I don't see a need to force Brad in a format this weekend. Now, if it's DFS and stuff and he qualifies towards the back, obviously you got to use him. But it really comes down to the format. But I don't think he's a must-use this week at all. I think he's still got to lean towards the drivers you think will finish in the bottom 6 in the standings.
Yeah. Agree 100%. So here's an interesting one on Atlanta. Speaking of tire wear, do we think that another year aged the surface some more? Some drivers last year said had been aging pretty quickly. When do we start seeing that age affect the race? We talked about it with like a Las Vegas and how that's starting to affect the race with the tire wear. That'll be an interesting thing when Atlanta does come into play with tire wear, because obviously the track was super abrasive before. This is a completely different style of racing on this new track. You add in tire wear, that's something that they typically don't care about at a Daytona or Talladega.
Yeah, I mean, Daytona's starting to get tire wear. They were talking about it, it was repaved in 2011. So we're on year 15, 16 or something of Daytona. Handling started to come into play at Daytona. They were talking about that on the broadcast. So it'll eventually get there for Atlanta, but we're not there yet. I mean, one extra year is one extra year. It's going to create a touch more. And it does wear quicker age quicker, I should say, than other tracks. Like Vegas has been, I think it's been like 18 years since the Vegas repave, maybe more. It was in the 00s, and Vegas is now just starting to become kind of a medium to higher side of medium. But that's because Vegas doesn't get the deep freezes over the winter like Atlanta can. And you get the ice in Atlanta. I'm sure they had that ice storm recently. So it definitely happens quicker at Atlanta, but it's still a young track. It's still 5 years old, and it's not going to break up the drafting racing that we see. If it makes handling matter more, then that just favors the big teams more, but it's only a little bit more. And we kind of already lean towards the big teams here anyway. We know HMS and Penske have been the best teams at Atlanta, but still anyone can win. Suarez won a race here, so anyone can win. We almost saw Corey LaJoie win at Atlanta. Like, anyone can win.
Legitimately, too. Obviously, he's I was rooting for him to make the 500. They had some fast cars. Yeah. But just wasn't. Obviously, Fast Pasta was my number one that I was rooting to get in. But
I think if Corey LaJoie had made it in, but he qualified toward the back, he would have been one of the hardest ones to reject in ownership, because I feel like he probably would have gone under-owned, but maybe not as under-owned as we would have thought.
Yeah.
Just because of his reputation as a decent super speedway racer.
Kind of like, I feel like Allgaier was under-owned this last week. And Allmendinger. Allmendinger was at 21%.
Oh, yeah. I was in the mid-30s on Allmendinger, and I was at like 40, I think, on Allgaier.
Same.
And
Allgaier came in at 29%.
I was definitely at like 35, 30 something on Allmendinger. But yeah, Allgaier was 29 in the milli, and Allmendinger, you said, was lower. He was like, or higher.
Allmendinger was 21.
21. Wow. Yeah.
Ty Dillon was 18.
I'm actually gonna need you to send me the CSV of that, because I forgot to download it. So I'll have to. Yeah. Ty Dillon. Yeah, he was super low, and I had him pretty high. I don't remember all my exposures, but I know I loved my exposures. I was very happy with them. Obviously, it didn't work out because it's hard to profit in that stupid contest, but really, really was happy with how things went in terms of my exposure relative to the field. Especially liked that Byron Cindric, didn't have amazing days. Ross, just kind of mediocre. Who else was it that started back? Oh, Busher. Busher had a good finish. And he was the one I was trying to be equal to the field on. I had like 42 as optimal, and I had him projected, I think, at like 43 or 44 ownership. So I was like, I kind of want to be equal, maybe even slightly overweight, just because even if he's not in the optimal lineup, he'll still get you in a lot of cashing lineups if he doesn't wreck out. So I was surprised when Busher was over 50% or 40 high.
He was 49.
49, yeah. So I was surprised when he was 49. I was like, all right, well, now I actually wish I was a little bit lower on him. But he might have been the only one I was kind of unpleased with my ownership once I saw the action, because I remember he was much higher than the 42 or so I had on him.
I do know I was happy with, Hamlin ended up almost the same percentage ownership as Allgaier, which, that's just the Hamlin bump, I think, at Super Speedway,
exactly.
starting 22nd. Yeah.
Wasn't Logano at like 9% or 11%? Like
11.8. Yep. Right above Cody Ware. Right below Jimmy Johnson.
I initially had him in at 3 to 5%, and then I was just like, screw it. And I literally did. So I actually hopped on to join your show, and you had just cut. I'm talking like 2, 3, 5 minutes later. So at that moment, like right there, I global swapped out Joey Logano for Riley Herbst. So I had even more Herbst than I initially had. So I think I ended up with like 17% Riley Herbst, somewhere around there, not completely totally sure. And again, I randomized it between all my contests. So I think that was just my overall Riley Herbst exposure was like 17%. It might've been a little lower in the milli. But at the same time, Riley Herbst was what, 9 or 11% owned?
7.3.
7.3. Yeah. So at 15%, I was double him. And I know I was at least 14, 15% on Riley Herbst in the milli. I just don't remember the exact number, but you get the idea. Like, I was really even pleased that I just like global swapped off Joey, my 3 or 5% or whatever. So I ended up going from 12% Riley to 15 or 16 or 17% Riley, depending on how it randomized.
Good stuff. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the lower name drivers, and I talked about it on my live stream, is these drivers that don't have much of a history or aren't bigger names, like Justin Allgaier, Connor Zilisch, guys like that. They're even if they're starting in the very back, which Zilisch started 32nd, Allgaier started 40th. They're not going to get the ownerships that they did, and they didn't. Allgaier was at 29. Yeah, Corey Heim. Allgaier was at 29%. Zilisch was at 18.7. Corey Heim was at 9.5.
I think I had like 25% Heim.
And that's even, he looked great in the duel.
Yeah.
Andy started 29th.
He looked great in the race, honestly.
So there's definitely always opportunities to get edges there. It's picking and choosing where to do it, right? But all right, anything else from Atlanta? Are you ready to get to our picks of what we can do right now?
Let's get to the picks.
All right, last week's pick to win, you had Bubba Wallace, who, like I said, led the most laps, finished 10th. So you started out with a 10th place finish to start the year. I had Kyle Busch, who started on the pole, finished 15th. So we're sitting here with the 10th and 15th place finish after the first race with our picks to win. Not a bad start for Daytona.
That's a great start for Daytona because they finished in the top almost third of the field. Kyle Busch barely not, but that's a massive for Daytona. The chaos Daytona. The other Daytona is going to be more calm, like we said this year.
So your turn to go first this week. I went first last week. Who is your pick to win Atlanta this weekend?
Pick to win Atlanta. I am going. I already talked about him. I think he's going to have a good Atlanta. He has had a good Atlanta before. Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson. Coming out with the Larson pick. I think Hendrick. I agree with you. I think Hendrick's going to be really good. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna stick with the Hendrick train as well, but I'm not gonna go Larson. I'm gonna go with a guy that's won twice on this new track. I'm gonna go Chase Elliott. Yep. So we're riding Hendrick here with our picks to win. Now this is where it gets interesting. It's 36 for 36.
Yes. And by the way, let's talk about go ahead.
You had great pick last week with Riley Herbst get 35 points. That's a solid day from him. I had Cody Ware. He got me 20 points. Overall, I think we did good for the first week, 36 for 36.
Yes.
See if we can do it again this weekend. Obviously, this is where we're using the lower tier guys here just to get them used up.
I'm very curious looking at our Stacking Dennys league. So I'm third place. Kyle Miller's first. I believe he had, I forget who. Let me go back to Daytona and look at the points. Whoever had 41 points at Daytona, he had Zane Smith, which is a wild,
good pick,
but an interesting pick. I think you can use Zane in a lot of places.
Yeah.
He's not a bottom 6 car in my opinion, but interesting and interesting theory on that. So I love that. Then vroom, vroom, boom, boom, 37 points. That's Bubba Wallace. So not opting to use Bubba at Kansas or Indy or some of his other strong tracks, using Bubba at the Daytona 500. But then there is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-way tie with 35 points. And I can't see who used who, but 2 drivers finished with 35 points. One of them was Riley Herbst. And the other is a driver I could see people using as well, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So I don't know of those 7 people who picked Riley Herbst and who picked Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I just know I picked Riley Herbst.
Yeah, I wish you could see who picked who, but I don't think they have that functionality.
Yeah, that would make it really interesting because then you could get into the whole game theory of like blocking picks and stuff. Like knowing they only have these drivers.
Obviously,
left.
We know who. Us two know who we pick, but I'm also curious to see how we do this year compared to everybody else when we're making our picks. Early. Well before practice and qualifying and everything.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think it's super interesting having the whole group here now, and shout outs to all of you for joining the group. It's going to make it a lot more exciting than
more
just
fun,
me versus Jordan, especially when it's late in the year and Jordan's slapping my ass by 80 points or something. So, as he has done the last 2 seasons that we've done this, the only 2 seasons we've done this. So, but I have a 15-point lead on you, Jordan. I'm feeling pretty spicy.
You
right
definitely
now.
got off to a good start, and I want to say that. Like, obviously, this doesn't account for anything in the future, but I feel like my 36 for 36 picks at Atlanta have been absolute dog shit ever since we started doing this. So, definitely an opportunity there. But who you going with yours? Because there's a lot of places I could go this week. I don't know 100% what I'm going to do yet, and I'm curious to hear what your strategy is going to be.
It's tough. I honestly don't know. This is so hard. This might be the hardest early season 36 for 36 we've had so far. I've been thinking about it a lot today, actually, and I don't have a fucking clue, man. I don't have a clue. And now it's on me to make a pick, right? I get it. So it's like, all right, well, what are you gonna do? And I just don't have the answer.
Do you go with a Cody Ware and get him out of the way, or since this is a little more predictable, do you go to the next tier of driver?
Yeah, exactly.
Because Cody Ware did finish 13th here in last summer. Actually, he finished 13th.
JJ Yaley finished 7th in a Rick Ware racing car in 2023.
You're going with Cody Ware, aren't you? It's going to be another week where you're on Cody Ware.
God damn. Daniel Suarez. That's my pick.
Dang it, that's what I was going to go with. Oh.
That's that funny. Race that Yaley finished 7th, Daniel Suarez finished 2nd. And I said, I think I like the Spire cars this weekend and Chevy in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm going Chevy, but Cody Ware's a Chevy.
Yep. Unfortunately, I used Ware last week, so I can't use him this week. But
I don't see where else I'm going to use Daniel Suarez. Like, he's not the road course guy that he used to be, especially with SVG, especially with Connor Zilic. So, and now, he's moved to Spire away from Trackhouse, which I think is a step down, as we talked about. I think it was like 7th percentile in flags as a drop from Trackhouse to Spire in general. So, yeah, I think it's going to be hard to use Suarez outside of drafting tracks.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And like I said, I was, before you made your pick, Suarez was my pick. And I don't want to repeat picks already. So I'm not going to go Suarez, but he was definitely on my radar this week as well. But my pick is a guy that has 4 top 10s in the last 5 races here. The other finish being a 14th. I'm going to burn my Ricky Stenhouse Jr. pick here at Atlanta this weekend.
Definitely don't mind that. He's fantastic here. The only issue is you can sometimes use Stenhouse at a Nashville or a Bristol or a whatever, but it's really hard to get that right with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He will pop a couple times a year at normal tracks, right? Texas 6th last year. But predicting that is very hard for Ricky Stenhouse because he pops randomly, it seems like, at a few tracks that are good for him. Iowa, 5th place in 2024. Then we talked about in 2023, it was, he had an 8th at Martinsville, 7th at Charlotte, a 7th at Pocono. I remember at Nashville, the first year he finished 6th. He had a 2nd at Dover in 2022. So like 1 or 2 times a year, he will have a top 6 at a normal track. Good luck guessing which ones.
Right. Yeah. And that's the hard part, with how this format is and especially how we pick. We don't get to see the practice or qualifying beforehand. So it's almost like my mindset is I want to get this out of the way now. So I'm not stuck with having to use a Stenhouse later in the year when I don't know when he's actually going to be. Whereas a lot of these other guys, you can pretty much, outside of a race weekend where they totally miss it, we're going to know they're going to have decent speed.
I'm very curious how we're going to do, because all you listeners, you get a pick after practice on all the other normal tracks. We're at a handicap where we don't even get to pick after practice.
If
either of us win the pool, oh my God, if either of us win the pool, like there has to be some kind of thing that happens. I don't know what. Maybe the viewers have to pull in and each give us $5. And that would be no, I don't know. I'm just messing. Something has to happen if one of us wins the actual whole group we're in, the 50, I think it's 55 or 6 people group, because we will be at a handicap not having practice and qualifying available to us.
Obviously, these first couple weeks, it's a lot easier to pick, but when we get to these other races, it's going to be tough, especially going up against everybody else. But we'll see how it goes this season. DraftKings wise, last week, we both had Stenhouse, we both had Johnson, we both had Custer. And then you had Hamlin, Reddick, and Chastain, which obviously Chastain ended up being a great pick. Reddick won the race, and then Hamlin was Hamlin. I had Busher, who also ended up being a great DFS pick just based on his starting position. I also had Gibbs and John Hunter Nemechek. You got the win week 1, 215.25. I had 194.9.
215 is like, it's not amazing, but it's respectable for not having qualifying.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let me check what 215 would have done in the big contest. I need to click over to the next couple pages or something. It's not sorting correctly here. Just give me 1 second. I'm just stalling. There we go. Wait, no, that's Chrome Horn. 1.5. What would 215 have done? 215. You point what?
215.25.
0.25.
Mm-hmm.
14,000 cash. 14,800, I think it was. This would have been just outside of cashing at 25,000, let's say.
I was gonna say I had a lineup that was at 215.8, and I was 24,441st.
Yeah, I have a 215.55, and it was 24,604. So let's say around 25,000, a little shy of 25,000. It's not quite cashing, but 25,000 out of 60,000 entries is top half of the field for not having qualifying or anything. By the way, my fortune cookie lineup cashed. Kelsey and I, we went to Chinese food before the race. Between the two of us, we only got exactly 6 drivers, and it cashed.
No, it did not. That's awesome.
It did. I swear to God. Here's the one we had. If I can get it to sort correctly. Sort by. It was the $1 contest. What is the name of that contest? I don't remember.
Happy hour.
Was it the happy hour?
That's the $1 one. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Our lineup was. I shit you not. I tweeted out the fortune cookies and everything. We had William Byron, which is amazing because he started 39th.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Buescher, because he started dead last. Oh, we got some fucking good drivers. Denny Hamlin we had. Finished 31st, but I mean, if you're going to get a driver starting 22nd, you may as well be Denny Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the 3 drivers in the back half of the field. We got 3 drivers in the front half of the field. Starting 16th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished second. Starting 11th, led 19 laps, John Hunter Nemechek. Now, he crashed out, but because he led enough laps and got a fastest lap and you know, even when he crashed out, it was later in the race, still got positive points. And we have Brad Keselowski, who finished 5th after starting 9th. That's a fucking lineup, man. Like, that's legitimate. Yeah. Now, I know 3 of them started in the top half of the field, but in terms of super speedway racers, it's hard to build a better lineup of just pure super speedway talent. Yeah. Obviously, if it was a Logano or a Blaney or a Cindric, like that type of stuff. But once you get past that group in the Elliott, right? Like, I mean, John Hunter Nemechek is a legit super speedway driver. We know Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is an amazing super speedway driver. We know Buescher, Hamlin, Keselowski, Byron. Byron's a 2-time winner of the Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin's 3-time winner. Brad Keselowski has won 1 billion super speedway races, just never the 500. Chris Buescher's won at Daytona. Like, I have 5 Daytona winners there in that lineup out of 6. And the other one was John Hunter Nemechek, who actually led the most laps of all those drivers.
Mm-hmm. That's solid.
That's a fortune cookie lineup. That is a good fortune.
You know what's funny is you do fortune cookie. I'd put all the names in a hat and then I'd spread them out on the floor and I'd have Link, like, he would nose them. Yeah. And I would take the 6. And I swear there was like a 3-year in a row that he cashed in the Daytona 500 doing this method.
That's hilarious.
Gosh, you do better than me with this shit.
And you know what's funny? The other driver we pseudo had on the fortune cookie was not from a number, but on the fortune cookie, it always gives you a Chinese word to learn. And the word to learn was melon.
That's funny. That's funny. That's good.
Ross Chastain.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't have anything else.
No, I'm good. I'll definitely be betting Atlanta. It just will not be 25, 30 bets. I had 30 bets in the Action app, 25 in the article.
It's so exciting to start the year off with a ton of bets. Like,
yeah,
it is.
That's the best race to have a ton of bets because it's pure chaos and you can just sprinkle a bunch of long shots. And if you lose like 3 to 5 units or something not horrible, manageable. And I always say lose small, win big, right? So, yeah, it was great. But I'll have bets for Atlanta. Won't be 30. It might be 2 or 3, maybe. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see by the end of the weekend.
running hots on Wednesday, so I'll have to have something for that at least, and then by the weekend we'll see. But I think I'm gonna lower the volume massively this week just to kind of. I've been so busy, and I need to do some basketball, so just kind of have to do my job for Action Network.
Yeah, probably a good thing. All right, good luck to everybody this weekend at Atlanta. Again, we're not calling it the other name.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week to talk about COTA. Good luck this weekend.
See y'all.